Shabbat Shalom. On years like this year, when Purim bleeds into Shabbat, it is usually one of even greater joy than a typical Purim. On Purims like these, and in years like this, we tend to feel that joy that we're commanded to feel with greater intensity. Yet I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling like my happiness was tempered this year, that my grogger wasn't quite as loud, which for me actually is a good thing. I enjoy that. But we're holding on to mixed emotions, and these mixed emotions are actually baked into this layered holiday. And I'll get into that in a moment. But this Purim also marks a grim anniversary. While we're not there on the secular calendar quite yet, last year our Purim festivities were our last public gathering. Nearly every day when I'm here at Rodfe and I go into the kitchen to dump out my coffee grounds, I see a pot and a pan that Meg Schwartz used to defrost and cook dozens upon dozens of hot dogs for our Purim carnival. And those pots and pans have not been touched since she washed them last year. Meg was actually bouncing back and forth between the kitchen and the library, where she changed her chef's hat into her hat as board vice president, and where we were discussing staffing options that would reflect our growth and where we would want to be in the near future. I can assure you that in a pandemic, and not having been together in a whole year was not a scenario that we discussed. What I want to talk about are some of the beautiful complexities Purim provides us with in general, which will help us with the particulars of the Purim that we celebrated this year. While we don costumes, hear the long Megillah, and maybe down a few cocktails, there's far more to Purim than we may have been taught or even want to acknowledge. The rabbis actually believed that in the world to come, Purim would be the only holiday that is still observed. Not Pesach, not Yom Kippur, not Rosh Hashanah. In a time or existence that is perfected, it's the story of Esther and her people that will still be heard. So we need to ask ourselves why. I'm going to give one answer, but you can think about it, throw some answers in the chat. In the Talmud, the rabbis ask, why must the Megillah be read at night and then again in the morning? Their answer is one of great emotional sensitivity and psychological insight. They say that at night, we tend to experience loneliness. We feel to our core the darkness that can envelop us. Yet, when we plumb those depths, we find strength, and that is where we find resiliency. Not the resiliency we as Americans tend to think of as the powerful person overcoming hurdles and placing those obstacles over there in their rearview mirror. No. When we learn from them and stare them in the eye, that is when we become better. Then, our rabbis teach us that we wake up filled with unencumbered joy of being alive, and that those fears did not consume us. Even for those who are lonely, who are isolated, the Talmud says, mourning can bring and should bring thanksgiving. Rabbi Soloveitchik, when commenting on this text, asked the question of whether the two Megillah readings are about thanksgiving or if they're a prayer of distress for the lonely. And he Jewishly answers, both. He writes, the Megillah contains two stories, the story of human happiness and fulfillment, as well as the story of human misery and distress. He's saying that it's an exercise in holding two things at once, something that we naturally struggle with, but Judaism is uniquely good at. It is Shabbat, and Shabbat exists as a day apart, so that we do not carry the luggage of all the burdens that travel with us through the week. And I don't mean to be a killjoy, to kill the joy that we experienced on Purim and the excitement that we have to get to Shabbat. Yet for me, Shabbat during this past year has actually been the time that COVID has been front and center. All that is abnormal, continually surreal, and just bad comes into focus. I do my tech study or the Masorti service from my office in a completely empty building. And on the other hand, we as a community, and this is not luck, are mostly fully intact. We have grown our community. Many of you who are watching right now would not be in Road Faith Tzedek if could be physically together. We've also expanded our emotional, our social, and our political awareness. What we have lost in being together, we have used to become a more thoughtful and forward-thinking community. And hopefully, we're also more aware of those who see these blessings and losses as trivial compared to theirs. Purim provides a blueprint not for putting on a disguise to shield ourselves from what is scary, what we want to divorce ourselves from, whether that is what we don't like about ourselves or our surroundings. Purim is here to teach us, at the height of what is scary, sad, and awful, that there are also blessings to be found, that there is time to rejoice with the full extent of our souls. And that does not mean that we are disregarding the sins of others or the sadness that surrounds us. As Jews, we do sadness real well. Few, if any, of our holidays are devoid of it. But we also know how to relish blessings large and small, to live within the respites from our daily lives in meaningful ways. Purim asks us to pause, to linger within those blessings for just a little bit longer. Put on a mask so that we can shield some of the fears that follow us and be okay with being happy, even when that may not be our go-to emotion, even when sadness may be more comfortable. So we can all pray, but certainly we can all do our part in ensuring that next Purim, we can be together and fully bask in the light of our communal joy. Shabbat Shalom.